All right, we're back for more daily college basketball best bets. Today is December 5th, and we've got 5 more best bets for you here on the channel. Not the largest slate of college basketball today, but we've got some early games, so we're going to give you picks for the entire day, right? Starting with the first game. Our first game's at 10 in the morning. We'll get to that in a second. There is a 9 a.m. game between Southeast Missouri State and Lipscomb, but I'm not going to bet on a 15.5 point spread either way in that game with Missouri State Southeastern, by the way, Missouri State and Lipscomb. Also, real quick before we get into the video, we officially have a ban list now. I made this in about 5 minutes. My printer, I don't know why it didn't go to the entire page, but as you can see right here, the ban list is the New Orleans Pelicans, if this will focus one time, La Tech football, the Gamecocks of Jacksonville State basketball, San Diego basketball, and then High Point University gets the doom, because of their embarrassing performance the other day. So we're no longer giving the boom to High Point, they get the doom. Okay, I need to stop. All right, let's go on. Again, make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for some more college basketball best bets here on the channel. Again, we do this daily from here all the way till March. And also be on the lookout for our 20,000 subscriber special. That got pushed back to tomorrow, so that's going to be on Friday now, but there will be a giveaway. You have to be subscribed to both YouTube and follow the Instagram down in the link down below, and then again, you will be entered in the giveaway, so make sure you do that. But again, that video will be out, and the giveaway instructions and whatnot will be out on the channel tomorrow, and also later today, in about an hour, we will have our our NBA predictions on the channel as well. I believe there are 8 games in the land of the NBA today, so make sure to check that video out in about an hour. Our NFL predictions were posted yesterday. Our college football predictions were posted the day before that, and on Sunday our UFC 310 Kai Sakura and Alexandre Pantoja predictions were posted as well. Okay, let's get on to our 5 games today, and I kid you not, yes, we start off with Detroit Mercy. Okay, guys, I found 4 games I really liked today, and those are the 4 games we're going to talk about after this. This was the one I was I don't know, I was trying to find a 5th game, and this is what I landed on. I'll tell you my other candidates for games that I was thinking about including into today's video. There were a couple. All right, the one that I was looking at the most was UC Davis at home to cover 2.5 against Cal Poly. That game was weird, though. Davis hasn't been playing that well this season, and somehow, someway, Cal Poly's coming off a victory over Stanford. Now, we've been telling you Stanford's very fraudulent, but I didn't think they were that fraudulent. The other game I was considering, Milwaukee to cover 7.5 against Cleveland State, but Milwaukee's coming off a loss to Southern Miss. Don't really love that. And the other game we were thinking about doing is Drake going on the road and covering the 10.5 against Valpo. Valpo actually hasn't been that bad this season. They were really bad to start the year. Obviously, they lost by 20 to Liberty. That's the game we picked Liberty to cover, but Valpo actually hasn't been all that bad since then. So I don't feel great laying the 10.5 on the road for the Drake Bulldogs in that game. So we settled on this instead. And also, it's going to be one of these games just to get the blood pumping early in the morning. Again, I'm going to be up at this time anyway tomorrow, so I might as well have someone to watch while I'm in class. Anyways, give me Detroit Mercy to cover the 8.5 points against the Purdue Fort Wayne Mastodons. A couple things involved with this game. It's a day game. The game obviously in Detroit, Michigan. They are Central Time. Yes, so this is a noon start on a Thursday. Weird start time for this game, and if I've learned anything from college football on random Tuesday games, it's just that weird stuff happens when games aren't played at their normal times. And again, there are college basketball games played in the morning, but this is a game that's at home for Detroit Mercy. I mean, I don't know what student population is going to be at this game, because it's noon, but still on a Thursday too. But I do like Detroit Mercy. I feel like this is just a weird game that Detroit Mercy can kind of hang around in. And also, Detroit Mercy has not been the absolutely god-awful team that you remember them as last season, okay? They were horrible last year, obviously. What did they start the year? 0-19, I think. Now, Mississippi Valley State was much worse. I mean, just like they looked a lot worse. Detroit Mercy started the year 0-26. They finally won a game on February 14th of last year at home against IU Indianapolis. If you remember that game, that was the game where Detroit Mercy wins and then literally one guy stormed the court. I kid you not, there's just one dude who was sitting courtside and was just going crazy because Detroit Mercy won the basketball game. They're much better this year, though, guys. They had 1 win last year. They have 4 this year, and they're coming off a huge victory on the road where they beat Eastern Michigan. And I get it again. The Eagles of East Michigan, they're no powerhouse by any stretch of the imagination. But the fact that Detroit Mercy was able to win that basketball game is absolutely huge. It's a ginormous win for this Detroit Mercy Titans team, and now they're going to try to parlay that into a game here against Purdue Fort Wayne. We don't need them to win this game, even though, again, if you want to take the ballsy pick, take Detroit Mercy. I'm not even predicting that Detroit Mercy is going to win the game. I do think the Mastodons of Purdue Fort Wayne are able to win, but we like the Detroit Mercy Titans to cover the 8.5 points, because they did it earlier this season at home against, that was a tournament game, but still, against Rhode Island. URI is a good team. We picked them the other day when we went 5-0, and Rhode Island obviously coming off a big victory where they covered against the Yale Bulldogs at home. Well, Detroit Mercy lost that game by 6 to Rhode Island and covered this line that we get today. Wake Forest lost only by 10 on the road. That's not a bad loss. Toledo by 15. They beat Ball State in Ball, Indiana by 11 points. They beat Niagara. Lose to Loyola Chicago. It is what it is. But I don't think Detroit Mercy's that bad this season, and they've got guys who can score. Orlando Lovejoy, averaging 14 points a game. You get Mac Mansell, who I believe is still injured, averaging 13, though. And then their last game, it was Grant Gonzarek, who scored 22 points and had 7 rebounds as well. I don't mind this Detroit Mercy team in the spot, especially at home, getting 8.5 points. And hey, it's a game in the morning. We don't have to wait till, 4 o'clock to watch a bet. We get one at 10 a.m. That sounds so degenerate. That's horrible. Purdue Fort Wayne is a 5-3 team this season. They're coming off a win over East Texas A&M, a loss to Radford, a win over Drexel. They lost to Penn State. Sure, again, they kept it close, and they did put up 89 points in that game on the road. Now, we'll get to Penn State in a minute. Obviously, the biggest game today, Penn State-Purdue. That goes without saying. And yeah, Purdue Fort Wayne's been able to win basketball games. They beat a Southern Indiana team that, gave us a little bit of trouble early in the year with Bucknell, but we picked Bucknell to beat them. We haven't really revisited the Screaming Eagles of Southern Indiana at all. I believe when they Evansville, I think. But Purdue Fort Wayne, again, an Indiana squad over there in Fort Wayne. They're okay, but they're not great. They don't blow you out the water. Like, they beat Bethune-Cookman as well. I don't know. Their best guy by far, and their leading scorer is Jalen Jackson. He's averaging 19 points a game. Rashid Bello isn't bad as well. But I just don't think they're able to cover this line on the road. I think Detroit Mercy can keep this game relatively close. Again, they're riding the highs of going on the road to, Kalamazoo, Michigan? No, that's where Western Michigan is. I don't know where East Michigan is. They went on the road, though, to Eastern Michigan and were able to win in overtime. That's a big victory for this club, man. It's a big victory for this team, and I think they're able to stay competitive in this basketball game with Purdue Fort Wayne. I'm not even saying they're going to win, but I think we can get them to cover this line. Give me Purdue Fort Wayne to cover the 8.5 points. I really just took 5 minutes talking about this game. Oh, wow. Oh, my goodness. Next, Southern Miss versus Alabama State. So, you get this game at 10 a.m. What do you need after? A game at 12:30. All right, so we're going to, we're building the entire day here around college basketball. We get Alabama State and Southern Miss. We like Southern Miss to cover the 2.5 points at home in Hattiesburg, Mississippi. I didn't even know that was a city. Alabama State comes out the SWAC, okay? The SWAC isn't good. Guys, the best team right now record-wise in the SWAC is Alabama A&M. They're 4-5. This is the same conference that has Bethune-Cookman, who we faded a couple times this season, Mississippi Valley State, who is well regarded as one of the worst teams in college basketball, but who might be even worse this season? Alcorn State, who's 0-9, Jackson State, who are 0-8. These teams are all really bad. And now, given, again, all these teams just get bye games where they go on the road to get slaughtered in exchange for some money. So that's why they all have horrible records. Arkansas Pine Bluff, a 1-8 record. Prairie View A&M, a 1-6 record. But there's a reason that all these teams in this conference take bye games. Is because they're all not good. So Alabama State gets a bye game where they go to Southern Miss. Southern Miss is expected to win this game. Actually, I don't even know if this is a bye game because, why is Southern Miss buying games against anybody? Okay. Regardless, I get it. We faded Southern Miss before the season. We faded them in the South Dakota State game, and obviously, again, the Jacks came through for us that time out against Southern Miss. They did not come through for us yesterday in the Summit Big Sky Challenge against Montana. That one hurt. It's just a horrible start for South Dakota State yesterday. Fell behind early, good second half, but just didn't have enough to regroup in that game. They tied it once and just couldn't, again, get over the top. It is what it is. They couldn't get over the Summit That's horrible. Regardless, give me Southern Miss to win this basketball game, and I'm liking them to cover the 2.5 points as well. They're coming off a 1-point victory over Milwaukee. Milwaukee's not a bad squad, though. Again, I really considered taking Milwaukee in this video as well to cover the 7.5 points against Cleveland State, partially because we think the Vikings of Cleveland State are just really bad. They're one of those fade teams for us, like Minnesota yesterday. Hell, we got that one right again with Tom Izzo and Michigan State going to Minneapolis and covering that game easy. Didn't matter there on the road. But, you know, the number 1 and 2 teams lost yesterday, so what you gonna do? I think Southern Miss is going to win this basketball game. Alabama State does nothing that blows me away. Amar Knox isn't bad. He averages 15.5. CJ Hines is not a horrible player for Southern Miss. They are led by Denijay Harris. He's averaging 14 points a game. You got Christian Watson as well. You've got Alvarez who's going to give you 13 points a night. I just think strength-wise and just the whole team-wise, Southern Miss is the better team here. I know they've had some rough outings so far this year. They lost to Albany and Christian. They lost to Montana State. Obviously, the Jackrabbits beat them. They lost at Birmingham against UAB. But Alabama State, again, hasn't looked all that impressive either, given we have not seen them against, you know, a very, you know, all that comparable of a team. They beat Lamar. They beat Omaha. Beat Virginia Lynchburg, who's an NIAA, but lost to UNLV, LSU, Akron on the road, Cincinnati, SMU. I just don't know where to put Alabama State. If I've learned anything, though, about the SWAC is that these teams aren't very good, so I'd expect Southern Miss to just take care of business at home here. It's not like Alabama State was a great team last year. They went 13-19 and 8-10 in the SWAC, so they were just a middling team in this conference. And sure, Southern Miss was kind of, you know, what Alabama State was in the Sun Belt last season, but I still like a, you know, middle of the pack Sun Belt team over a middle of the pack SWAC team. So give me Southern Miss to win the basketball game and cover the 2.5 points as well. Next up, we go to Pennsylvania for Penn State versus Purdue. Of course, the Big Ten game of the day, and we like the Purdue Boilermakers to go on the road and win at University Park. I get it. Winning on the road in college basketball is difficult, but I just think Purdue is better than Penn State. I know, again, they got to go on the road. I don't think Ace Baldwin's able to beat this team. I know, again, Penn State's got more than Ace Baldwin. They got Yannick Niederhauser as well, who's averaging 14 points. Zach Hughes is averaging 13. Sorry, Zach Hicks, excuse me. Nick Kern is averaging 12. Puff Johnson, of course, still involved with this Penn State team as well. But, of course, this is Ace Baldwin's squad. If you've watched Penn State over the last couple years, again, this team is primarily based around him. But I just refuse to believe that Purdue's going to go on the road and lose this basketball game after the way they were able to come back and beat Ole Miss their last game and the way they were able to beat NC State. I understand, again, North Carolina State is not the team that they were last season. They're not the team that went to the Final Four last year with DJ Burns and company. I get that. They're not that same team, but still they were able to beat them by 10. The team that was able to beat Alabama earlier this season, their only loss all year, the Boilermakers, is a loss on the road at Marquette. Marquette's a good team, and that's their only loss all year long. Marquette, again, I know they lost to Iowa State yesterday, but you know how good Iowa State is. There's no shame in that. I think Purdue can still go on the road and beat Penn State here. Penn State 7-1. I'll give them that. Their only loss this season is Clemson. They lost that game by 8 points. But really, who has Penn State beat other than Virginia Tech? I'll wait. They haven't beaten anybody all that impressive. What, UMBC? St. Francis, PA? Purdue Fort Wayne? We just talked about them earlier. We think Detroit Mercy is going to cover against them. Fordham? Come on now. Penn State doesn't have a big win this season. And you're telling me they're going to beat Purdue? I don't think so. I really don't think so. I get it. Purdue's got to go on the road here. But they got Trey Kaufman-Renn. They've got Fletcher Lawyer. Still got Braden Smith. This team will be fine. Again, they've been fine without Zach Edey so far this season. They've had one hiccup all year. They lost at Marquette. I think we're more than fine here with Purdue in this basketball game. I know last year doesn't really matter, but the one time those two teams played last year, it was in West Lafayette, and Purdue won the basketball game by 17 points. I get it again. They're a much different team without Zach Edey. Zach Edey had 20 boards and 30 points in that game between Purdue and Penn State last season, but I do just think Purdue's the better basketball team still without Zach Edey, obviously. I don't think Ace Baldwin's able to will this team to victory alongside Niederhauser as well. I think Purdue's the better team here, and I still think, again, despite them having to go on the road, they win this basketball game in their Big Ten opener. Give me the number 8 ranked squad in the country, the Purdue Boilermakers, as underdogs. We get Purdue at plus money to go on the road and defeat the Penn State Nittany Lions. We're taking Purdue to win, and obviously to cover the 1.5 points as well. Next up, we move on to, we had to dive really deep for this game. I'm not going to lie. We had to really just go searching for a game here. We found it, and we have you again. None of these games are going on at the same time throughout the entire day. I mean, literally, we have a 10 a.m. game, we have a 12:30 game, a 3:30 game. This is a 5 o'clock game, maybe a little bit of an overlap, but then you got a 7 o'clock game in our final one. We'll get to that in a minute. But here is East Texas A&M going on the road to Houston Christian. Yes, we have given you a reason to watch East Texas A&M and Houston Christian play basketball this year. If you are not familiar with these two teams, I don't blame you. Houston Christian is 2-6 and East Texas A&M is 1-7. I know. I do think Houston Christian is the better team, though. Okay? I think Houston Christian, by far, is the better team in this basketball game, and they get this game at home. I feel like, I'm not going to say it's mispriced, because I don't think a game between a 1-7 and 2-6 team should ever be labeled mispriced. But I do think, again, all things considered, we get Houston Christian at home in this basketball game. This is both these two teams' Southland Conference opener this season. I do like the home team here in the Houston Christian Huskies. I get it. They have not played great basketball this season, but we will bring up again our good friends over there at East Michigan. They only lost to East Michigan by 1 point. After that, they lose in North Arizona by 3 points. And they lose to UTSA, a team that took St. Mary's to, the brink the other night in, Moraga. That's the city I'm thinking of. They went to Moraga, did the Roadrunners of UTSA, and almost beat St. Mary's. They took them to overtime, and, obviously St. Mary's ended up winning the basketball game, but that's not a bad loss for Houston Christian. Again, a 1 point loss. Sorry, we can go back to their loss against Rice. They've been good enough just to lose. 3 point loss against Rice, 1 point loss against Eastern Michigan, 3 point loss against Northern Arizona, and a 7 point loss on the road to UTSA. They've been playing competitive basketball. I can't say the same for the East Texas A&M Lions. That's the thing. They played two competitive basketball games all season long. They're coming off a 20-point loss to Purdue Fort Wayne. A 2-point loss at Stonehill. Okay. Again, that's their literally only close game all season that they've lost to the Stonehill Skyhawks, who aren't bad this season. They're 5-5, but again, it's not a claim to fame for East Texas. A loss to Oklahoma obviously got blown out. A loss at UConn, obviously. A win over Southern by 2 points, 70-68. Then losses to A&M, South Dakota, and Iowa, none of which were particularly close. What does this East Texas A&M team do all that well? They don't score. Houston Christian, even in their losses, they can score. That's the difference in this basketball game, guys. Houston Christian will be able to score. East Texas A&M will not be able to. Houston Christian has guys who can go to the rack, they can attack the paint, and they can shoot as well. We've got guys like Julian Mackey, who's averaging 13 and a half points a game. You've got Elijah Brooks, who's averaging 11. Bryson Dawkins, who's averaging 11. And then there's nobody else who averages 6 points on this team. But if you go and look at East Texas A&M, we've got Scooter Williams, who's averaging 12 and a half. Khalil Abdul-Mateen, who's averaging 11. And then again, nobody who averages more than, 6.5 points a game. It's going to be a crappy basketball game. I'm not going to lie to you. But we're taking the better of these two bad teams. We're taking Houston Christian. A, we get them at home. B, I think they're the better team. And C, they've been playing more competitive basketball as of late. Houston Christian, everything kind of points to them winning this basketball game. We get them at relatively even odds. How we get minus 130 for Houston Christian, minus 1.5 if you want to take the spread. I don't think this is bad value at all for a team that, again, looks on paper way better than this East Texas A&M team. We are taking the Houston Christian Huskies to win at home and cover the 1.5 points as well. We like Houston Christian HCU to win this game at home against the East Texas A&M Lions. As we go into our final game, again, we mentioned the 7 o'clock start, and here it is. We are going to continue to fade the San Francisco Dons until it doesn't work anymore. This team doesn't usually cover the spread. We're getting the St. Louis Billikens here at, I think, pretty good value, plus 8.5. I don't mind St. Louis to win. I'm not going to officially predict it, but there is a definite chance I think St. Louis can go on the road and win this basketball game. I am not blown away with anything the San Francisco Dons do. They have one decent win all year. It's the win at home against Boise State. The Cal Poly game, sure, Cal Poly's better than we thought they were at the beginning of the season. But still, they had a rough game where they barely got by against Cal Poly. They blow out Long Beach State, sure, the beach is horrible. They blow out Chicago State, that's what you're supposed to do to them. They lose to Memphis, lose to Clemson, beat Fordham, don't care. And we covered with the Mercyhurst game against San Francisco. We took Mercyhurst on the line. Yes, they lost the game by 28 points. The line was 29.5. We covered. I think St. Louis is able to cover on the road here against San Francisco. We've been fading Bay Area basketball for a very long time this season. We've been fading the San Jose State Spartans. We faded Stanford before. We're going to start fading St. Mary's after I watched their last performance. I kind of fade Santa Clara a little bit. But we are going to fade San Francisco. Guys, besides Malik Thomas, there's no one on this team that just wows you. This is a team that gets really cold shooting a lot. They have big scoring droughts. And for the Billikens of St. Louis, their only 2 losses all year. We did predict them to lose against another Bay Area team earlier in the year against Santa Clara. They lost that game by 7 points. Neutral site game. I believe that was in Sioux Falls, I think. Maybe not. I don't know. They lost to Wichita as well in the middle of the season. But Wichita, again, not a bad squad. Wins over Loyola Marymount, Quinnipiac, UMass Lowell, and Jackson State. I get it. Again, they're barely getting by with those teams. But St. Louis has played competitive ball year long, and I think they're going to play competitive ball against San Francisco. That's why I don't feel great about them straight up winning the game. But you know what St. Louis does really well? They score. They have a lot of guys who could effectively score and shoot as well. Jimerson, averages 20 points a game, shooting 44% from beyond the arc. You've got Isaiah Swoop, who averages 19 points a game as well. He can shoot it as well. Robbie Avila, obviously, again, a guy who was at Indiana State last year, was a big star, whatnot in the NIT. Robbie Avila can shoot it as well. I believe Avila, though, is still out, if I'm not mistaken. No, Avila's back by now. Yeah, we're fine with St. Louis here. Avila got injured in the Santa Clara game, came back to the Quinnipiac game. No, he's back now, yeah. Again, Avila, is he all that great? I don't know. He's okay. He can shoot it, obviously. But they've got guys who can shoot on this team. Jimerson, Swoop can kind of shoot, and then Robbie Avila as well. But all those guys can attack, or all those guys can score effectively, right? Jimerson averaging 19, Swoop averaging 19, Avila averaging 17. I feel like St. Louis can score too well to not keep this game close, especially against a San Francisco team that really struggles to score against better squads. They struggle to score against Memphis a lot. They struggle to score against Clemson, and those are really the only 2 decent teams they played all year. Boise, okay, whatever, they beat Boise. We're going to pretend we didn't remember that, okay? But again, that Boise game was November 9th, okay? It's a long time ago. We're going to ignore that, okay? San Francisco, it's a what have you done lately for me type thing, and that's absolutely nothing. Again, Mercyhurst, yeah, they beat Mercyhurst by 28 points, but you know who covered? We did. Took Mercyhurst in the large line, and they covered that basketball game because San Francisco just, they're not that great. Again, besides Malik Thomas, I don't really like much of the San Francisco squad. Sure, Tyron Riley, you got Marcus Williams. I think the Billikens are able to go into San Francisco, and they're able to cover. Home court advantage is not a thing here other than the travel. Because, damn well no one shows up to these games in the Bay Area. Trust me, I've been to enough around the area where you don't get crowds in the Bay Area for basketball. I'm just saying. Give me St. Louis to go on the road and cover the 8.5 points against San Francisco. I don't mind the money line. Officially, I will take San Francisco on the line, but I think there's a definite chance, again, St. Louis can straight up win the basketball game. So give me St. Louis plus 8.5 here in our nightcap at 7, of course, here on Thursday night. So, folks, thank you all for watching our December 5th predictions are our best bets for college basketball here on the channel. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Make sure to leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Make sure to comment if you do disagree with any of the picks. We'll be back in an hour for our NBA predictions, and of course we'll be back tomorrow for more daily college basketball best bets. Folks, thank y'all for watching, and Mamba forever.